Good day. I'm Warren Black, a risk engineer, PhD candidate, and systems thinker. And welcome to the very first episode of what I hope to be a regular video blog series exploring the state of risk management profession in our modern working world. The reason I chose to start this video blog is because I wanted to start sharing some of the learnings I have gained over the past 6 years of PhD research into controlling risk within complex and adaptive environments. I see this research as being highly relevant to the modern risk profession because the fact is our working world is not getting any simpler, only more and more systemically complex. For most, this increased complexity can be felt on an almost daily basis. The sheer volumes of data, systems, technologies, and stakeholder relationships would need to be controlled in order to succeed is steadily becoming insurmountable. I also believe it's only a matter of time before the invested risk management community will be forced to start looking at organizational risk with a complex systems mindset. That is, it is inevitable that at some point in our complexity growth curve, modern organizations will need to better understand how disruptive phenomena emerge from within highly interconnected and system-driven working relationships. In brief, I believe the future of the risk management profession lies within the complexity sciences, specifically systems thinking, natural resilience theory, and complexity management. In order to understand why I believe this, we need to first start by understanding the current state of our modern working world. So we are now living in a time like no other. The modern world that we now exist in has two very specific characteristics that we have never seen throughout human history before. The first one is absolute global connectivity. We now live in a fully integrated and codependent working world comprising of 7 billion individuals, all connected via trade, travel, and technology. In other words, it's systemically complex. If you just consider the impact of smartphones and the internet alone, that connects probably 95% of the people on this planet. But if you throw in trade, travel, and technology on top of that, and tourism, then all of a sudden you realize that for the first time in human history, we are genuinely living in a global community. We are all systemically interconnected and all codependent on each other. We have never lived in an era like that before. The second part of our modern working world, which is unique, is that we are living in an age of perpetual disruption. That is, continually emerging technologies, product trends, stakeholder relationships, consumer behaviors, and political shifts. Everything is changing more and more rapidly than before. And we can see this in technology most obviously, but it's also in politics, it's also in the social world, it's even in our society. In brief, we are now living in an age that is highly disruptive. So what does this actually mean for the modern day risk profession? Well, the global risk management community is now faced with a particularly ominous challenge: how to effectively control high impact risk born from a highly interconnected world experiencing ever increasing frequencies of change. In brief, our working world has gotten more advanced, and because of that, our risk management professional needs have gotten more advanced. And this is why I have started this video blog, because the risk management profession needs to advance its thinking and its practices. And if you don't yet believe me, consider the following. The coronavirus phenomena of 2020. Our generation has never experienced a year like this before. And to quote the World Economic Forum, never in modern times has one event had such a wider-ranging effect on the world, its inhabitants, and its ecosystem. And even to go even further, the World Economic Forum has said that every risk management conversation for the next decade will have the word coronavirus in it. That is how powerful and momentous this particular phenomena has been. Now, I realize that this is an incredibly emotive and potentially divisive topic, but that cannot be the reason not to talk about it. This is the greatest risk-based phenomena of our time, and it's particularly important to remember that as devastating as it has been, none of the associated negative impacts we have experienced were actually caused by the virus itself. Rather, they were caused by how we as a society chose to plan for and respond to the virus. All of these impacts are actually man-made. They are outcomes of our selective decision-making and action management. For this reason, it is absolutely critical that we discuss and learn from our experiences. As tragic as the pandemic has been, there should be no doubt as to how powerful a case study this phenomenon has been in terms of modern day risk and resilience. And hence my desire to start a video blog that discusses not just what we, the risk management profession, can learn from this pandemic, but also other learnings within our advanced modern working world. For example, one of the key learnings that came out of the coronavirus crisis that I think all of us in the risk management profession need to start paying attention to is that the requirements of the modern day risk management profession have gone up a notch or two. Take a look at this. One of the key things that the coronavirus pandemic has done for us is given us a glimpse into the skills requirements of the future risk management professional. For the longest time, the risk management profession was a linear process-based profession made up predominantly of auditors, compliance officers, and insurance professionals, all trying to apply standardized solutions to standardized problems. COVID has blown that failed paradigm out of the water. The coronavirus crisis has already demonstrated that modern risk management is not a simple state game. It is in fact a highly technical discipline that requires a valid understanding of such complex concepts as disruption, resilience, uncertainty management, complexity management, probabilistic modeling, data analytics, systems thinking, crisis management, behavioral sciences. Now, each of these bullet points listed give us a glimpse into the future capabilities that will be required by the future risk professional. Any person who's not trained up in these areas simply does not have the full suite of skills required to deal with complex modern day risks. That is a fundamental learning that has come out of the coronavirus. So if risk management was ever to be a formal university level qualification, these bullet points represent the modern curriculum, and this is the curriculum we are going to explore in future episodes of this video blog series. So in future episodes, I intend to explore in a little bit more detail each of these key concepts. Specifically, we'll talk about who some of the world's leaders are in these areas, where some of the schools of thought currently reside, and some of the key concepts that exist within it. I genuinely believe that each of these is a key concept, a critical concept, if you will, that the modern risk management professional needs to start understanding and becoming an expert. As I said earlier, risk is no longer a stable state, simple game. It's now a complex, advanced game, and we in the risk management profession need to skill up, and I'm hoping to help it by doing my part. So just as a closing thought, something I want us all to think about. The coronavirus was merely our first macro global threat readiness test. Many more tests are yet to come. One of the reasons that I have followed the coronavirus so extensively and have blogged about it and talked and presented on this, even to some criticism, is because how we planned for and responded to the coronavirus is critically indicative of how we will inevitably plan for and respond to future macro global threats. So just think about that for a while. My specific intent has never been to focus on the detail of the coronavirus, but more on the macro strategies of risk management, how we have managed the risk of the coronavirus. And one of the things that has always concerned me through this is it rarely does it seem that we have proactively managed the risk of the coronavirus. In most cases, it seems that we have reactively responded to the crisis that is generated or emerged from the coronavirus. And that worries me because we cannot deal with future macro global threats in such a manner. We need to get better at this. So one of the things that I aim to do is look at future threats, bigger macro global threats that could possibly come down the line, and let's talk about how risk management needs to improve to keep up. I genuinely believe that our world has gotten more complex, more systemically driven, more interconnected, and more codependent. And the coronavirus was our generation's first test of how we stand up to the future of macro global threats that impact us on a global scale as an integrated community. But that's not where it's going to end. We should expect to see more. The looming one that's coming is this global recession. We still don't truly understand how it's going to impact us, but we are going to have to up our game if it doesn't impact us catastrophically. After that, we're going to have to deal with other things like climate change, biodiversity collapses, and many, many other macro global threats that have come down. That is the fundamental nature of our modern working world. So what I hope to do in this video blog series is explore these things in more detail, and let's just have a conversation about it and see where it takes us. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please join us for the next session, which will come out in a week or two, whereby we will explore the fourth industrial revolution, otherwise known as the age of perpetual disruption, and specifically what we will talk about, what does this all mean for modern day risk management profession? How do we need to upskill? How do we need to change our thinking? How do we need to change our methods to deal with the world that is significantly more complex and disruptive? Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session, and hope to see you again in the next episode.